a very good evening to you. Welcome along once again to Sweet and Swing. Not quite 2023, but we are almost there. So this evening, we'll just have a bit of nice end of the year music. Some piano playtime, a bit of Harry Sweets Edison. And to start us off, hopefully you have been doing this for the last few days and will continue to do so into 2023. What's that, I hear you ask? Riding High. As I say, I hope you are doing exactly that now. You have been for the last few days over the festivities, and will keep your riding high into 2023. Guy Lombardo, of course, getting us going this evening, riding high, and his Royal Canadians. And very appropriate, I thought, to start with a little bit of Guy, because he was famous for so many years for his New Year's Eve radio and TV programmes. A broadcast for donkey's years, first on radio, then television, at the Roosevelt Grill in the Roosevelt Hotel, New York City, from 1929 for 30 years to 1959, and then after that until 1976, so well into my time, at the Waldorf Astoria. Live broadcasts and later telecasts, of course, of performances were a big part of the New Year's celebrations right across North America. Millions of people used to watch Guy Lombardo to see in the New Year with friends at house parties. He was Mr. New Year. I can't say I've ever seen it. I must go and take a look. There must be on some on YouTube. But yeah, it was just a tradition because he did it for so long. And because of his popularity, what was he called? Well, of course, he was called Mr. New Year's Eve. And his music, the sweetest sound this side of heaven. The very first New Year's Eve radio broadcast, 1928. And within a few years, they were live on the CBS radio network and then on NBC radio. It's amazing, I think, in 1928, and he was still doing it in the 1970s. Terrific stuff. And went on, as I say, to do the CBS TV programme, including a live segment from Times Square. I think the programmes themselves continued after his death for some years, fronted by someone else. But it's often the case, isn't it? It's very difficult when there's something's been so much a part of tradition to just bin it off straight away. But we all move on at some stage or other. The other interesting thing about Guy Lombardo, other than the fact that he was so successful and, I believe, a very nice chap, he was a massive hydroplane racer, speedboats or powerboats, and I don't just mean, idly doing it in his spare time. He was a record breaker. He won the Gold Cup in 1946 in his boat Tempo. Of course, what else is a musician going to call a boat but Tempo? Tempo 6. He won it then. He won the President's Cup. He won the Silver Cup in 1952. From 1946 to 49, he was the reigning US national champion. And before he retired from the sport in the late 1950s, he'd won every trophy there was to win. And very luckily, he had an accident in 1959. He was attempting a run on the absolute water speed record with a jet engine-powered boat, Tempo Alcoa, when it was destroyed on a radio-controlled test run. So he wasn't actually in it, I don't think. But he was testing it out to see before he got into it. Just as well he didn't. It was doing over 250 miles an hour and it blew up, basically. So, yes, after that blew up, I think he decided to call it a day and retired. But you get the impression. Quite a man. Mr. New Year's Eve himself, Guy Lombardo. And it will be New Year's Eve tomorrow evening. I'm afraid Guy won't be there, but why not? You can whack a bit of Guy on or play this programme again or whatever you fancy. Play it on the podcast. Why not? And have your own Guy Lombardo to bring the new year in. The worst ways to do it, Worst ways to do it. What about Bunny Berrigan? That foolish feeling. Quite often the way a lot of us feel on New Year's morning.
Something simply has got to be done, so treat me sweetly, I'm completely gone. 'Cause I can feel that foolish feeling coming on.
Bunny Berrigan and his orchestra, that foolish feeling. Hopefully you won't be that way on New Year's morning. If you've had too much of a, how do we put it, a good time the previous evening, then you might have been there. I'm sure I have at some stage, where you might have just slightly overdone it on the eggnogs or whatever your favourite tipple is on New Year's Eve, and then you just feel a little bit silly to start the new year. Hopefully none of the Sweet and Swing listeners will be that way, because we're all far too sensible and of an age where maybe we don't do that sort of thing anymore. I always think about sort of New Year's, classic New Year's over the year. At this time of the year, you think, oh, previous New Year's, don't you? You think about where you might have spent them. And I've had a good mix, really, over the years. I mean somewhere in pantomime, such like back in the 80s, in the early 80s, when we used to do panto. Great fun, but it does eat up your entire Christmas, so not one if you want to see a bit of the family. Gigging with the old maestro. I remember one year back playing when he said, "Oh, we've got a gig on New Year's Eve, H." I said, "Really? Do we have to do that?" He said, "Oh, it'll be fine. You'll be finished." And of course, I was wanting to go partying, and he said, "Oh, we'll be finished by midnight. Don't worry about that." 12:15, or at least as midnight struck, what was I doing? I was hulking my drums back into the car, and that's a bit later than we anticipated. I don't know whether I got to the party I was going to. I really can't remember now. It wasn't. It was actually a very nice New Year, not quite the way I'd planned it, one way or another. And then another New Year where I must have been in my teens, maybe at one stage, and I must have been, yes, maybe late teens. I didn't have my own car, I don't think. It had been a snowy one, a white Christmas quite possibly, if not a white New Year, in as much as it had been very cold and it had been snowing and there was snow and ice on the roads on New Year's Eve. And I wanted to take my mum's car to a New Year's Eve party because there were some girls there, and girls are worth driving for, aren't they? And they weren't so worried because they drilled into me you couldn't drink and drive, so they weren't worried about that, but they were worried about the fact that the roads were going to be full of drunkards and they were very icy and slippery and could be dangerous, and so they said, no, you can't take the car. Which was a problem because the party was in Port Erin and we lived in Douglas. So after a bit of debate, I said, right, I'll walk there then. And Mum and Dad, of course, quite sensibly said, yeah, that's fine, no problem. I'd been given a nice new walking cagoule for Christmas and I had some good hiking boots. So I walked. I slightly missed time, though. I wasn't 100% certain how long it takes to walk from Douglas to Port Erin in the snow. And the answer is longer than you think. In that I saw New Year that year in walking on my own, slightly cold, through Guernsey. There we go. We do these things at times. I did get to the party in the end, just in time for my friend to say, oh, I've got to go now, because he had his own car and he was driving back home again, so I had a glass of Coke and then we came straight back to Douglas. I remember it. I remember it after all these years. I don't know whether it was a classic, but I do remember it. I wouldn't have minded having a New Year's Eve party with this man, Fats Waller, and his orchestra, with the delightfully entitled, and I hope this isn't summing up what you might be scoffing on New Year's Eve, Fat and Greasy.
Fat and greasy, what
hot and greasy. Watch him while he's sitting there. Chunks of fat hangs over his chair. Oil just oozing from his hair. Fat and greasy as a grizzly bear. They say the sweet perfumes are made from fat, but not the kind that comes from this greasy cat. There's fragrance in his clothes, but ain't like what you ever smelled in a rose. Oh man, that fool is fat and greasy. Hot or cool he's fat and greasy. Head to heel he's fat and greasy. Oh, a big fat greasy fool, yeah. He's got big fat liver lips, shakes like jelly round his hips. He's a waddling, wiggling shame with his big fat what name? Took that guy to a dance one night. It was called a name. When she got through dancing with this cat, oh man, she didn't smell the same. Oh, fine.
You can hear the needle in the groove there as well, can't you? Transcribed from 78, I dare say that one. Patricia Rosborough, the queen of syncopation as she was, at the piano where, well, did you recognise the first one? What was the first one, anyone? Hands up at the back there. What was the first track she played? Two little tracks, a little mini Charlie Kuntz style medley there. Anyone know it? No. Where in the Money was the first one, wasn't it? Where in the Money? Where in the money? Bum, 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 where in the money? And the second one, what was after that? Perhaps not quite as easy to get that one. Where in the Money, followed by the Shadow Waltz. 3-time, of course. The Queen of Syncopation, as I say, a long-time recording artist for EMI, very capable pianist. She was a concert pianist, I think, did actually start out as a concert pianist, also performed in music hall and variety, and sort of likes as I said, she again favoured that medley route, much beloved of Charlie Kuntz. And before that, yes, the signature tune for a very bad Pig in Blanket, or Pigs in Blankets, a bad one I hasten to add, not a good one. Fat and Greasy with, of course, Fats Waller and the orchestra. You're listening to Sweet and Swing with myself, H. Lovely to have your company. Here we are, almost into 2023. When, fear not, we will in 2023 be carrying on. We're going nowhere, as far as I'm aware. Fingers crossed. Same time, same place, we will be here every Friday evening at 9 for the foreseeable. Bound to change at some stage, but fear not at the moment. It's not. So keep your eyes and ears open and keep tuning in and enjoy the podcast as well if you want. It's been very popular, the podcast, and if you've not tried that before, it's very easy. You can subscribe to it and it'll come straight to you. Or you can go to the Manx Radio website on your favourite tablet or device. Go to the website, go to podcast, click on to Sweet and Swing, and you can listen whenever you want. How about that? I mean, even I can do that, and I'm a complete Luddite on technology, so dead easy. So you can listen wherever, whenever you want, in the bath, on the loo, whatever tickles your fancy. Gracie feels, don't know what tickles her fancy. I don't know whether I should think about this. What might have tickled her fancy when she was singing about In My Little Bottom Drawer.
Spending all my money on myself. I'm all prepared for married life, its secrets have been taught. And here's some little odds and ends I've been and gone and bought. One bridal gown, one eider-down. I've been saving them up since 1894. Got me ribbons and me bows, and me these and thems and those, all packed up in me little bottom drawer. One baby Scott, one flower pot, where I've planted a rambling rose bush for the door. Got a motto for the wall, it says heaven help us all packed up in me little bottom drawer. Got a piano under the staircase, and I'm teaching myself to play the Maiden's Prayer. One toilet set, one bassinet, now I'm waiting for love to open up the door. Got a set of Priestley's works and a case of eggs from Perks, all packed up in me little bottom drawer. I've answered every advert in the Matrimonial Times. I've bought my own confetti and a case of wedding chimes. At night I count my treasures just to see they haven't strayed. I'm very patriotic, everyone is British made. One chiffonier, one keg of beer, and some orange and purple lino for the floor. Got a new pyjama set made of bright red flannelette, all packed up in my little bottom drawer. One Persian rug, one china jug, and some beautiful silverware from Woolworth stores, with a book by Dr. Fife on how to be a perfect wife, all packed up in my little bottom drawer. We'll have a bathroom, a beautiful bathroom, and a lovely bath where we can keep the coals. Or shoe for look, pail for the muck, and a President Hoover's cleaner for the floor. can't get.
Oh, Gracie Fields with another novelty number in my little bottom drawer. I'll dedicate that one to my goddaughter, Poser. I don't know what's in her bottom drawer. Probably best not to ask. I suspect it'll be more exotic than whatever Gracie Fields had there, which seemed to be an awful lot, to be honest with you. Don't know what was in Rosie's, but you can have that one, Rosie. You have that one, me. Free gratis. Harry Edison. This is something I've dug out when I've been transferring stuff up to the Black Satanic Mill from Music Man Towers. And, Harry Sweets Edison, who I seem to recall, unless I'm getting mixed up, I'm fairly certain I met Sweets. There's not many on this programme, I can say, hand on heart, I actually met. Stephen Grappelli was one, and Bud Freeman another. And Harry, I'm fairly sure, did play quite late on in his career, came across here as a guest for the Manx Jazz Club and played. And I'm fairly certain I was introduced to him by the old maestro back in the day, probably in the, early 80s, late 70s, somewhere around there, I would guess. I'm fairly certain I'm right in saying that. Let me know if I'm wrong, or if you know otherwise, whether he played here or not. I think he did. And any thoughts, of course, always very welcome. Next year, as this, 23 or 22, we always love to hear from you. Sweet and swing. And all you have to do is drop me a line. Howard Kane, all one word, lowercase, an E on Kane, Caine, at manxradio.com. And I'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts, any comments, any requests? Yep, we do those. If we can find them, we'll play them. Anything, really. It'd be nice to have a bit more of an input from some of our listeners. It used to be quite lively at one stage. It got a bit quieter. I hope people haven't been dying off. But it has gone a little bit quieter over the latter part of 2022. So it'd be nice to try and reverse that trend in the early part of 2023. See if we can get the Far Away Club back up and running again. If you're listening on a podcast or listen again or whatever the case may be, and you are somewhere a bit more exotic than Ronnig or Peel or Crosby, it would be lovely to hear from you if you're listening in Botswana or Greenland or Canada. Terrific. Drop me a line. Give you a mention and have a request. Why not? Howard Kane at manxradio.com. Yeah, so I found this one from our friends at Avid 3 Classic Albums Plus. So 3 by Harry Sweets Edison, Mr. Swing. Just one called Sweets, another one called The Swinger. Don't know if they get away with that now. And G Baby, Ain't I Good to You? Yeah, titles might not work in the same way anymore, I don't know. But they're all great classic albums from Harry Edison on this collection. And we're going to hear one called Impresario. It's a longer track, so here's the chance to go and get your slippers, put another log on the fire, get yourself a glass of something nice, whatever you fancy. swing personified, as they say. Very swinging indeed, that one. Very nice. Harry Edison, the impresario from the album just called Mr. Swing, with a pretty good lineup, it has to be said. Harry himself, of course, on trumpet. Jimmy Forrest on the tenor sax. Jimmy Jones at the piano. Freddie Green guitar. Joe Benjamin bass. And Charlie Persip at the drums. New York, September 1958. Positively young for this programme. None the worse for that, it has to be said. Sweet swing and plenty of swing there. We need a bit more sweet in a moment or two, don't we? I think one way or another. We've got the swing. We'll have the sweet in just a moment. This could almost classify as sweet. I don't know. Somewhere in between, perhaps. A bit of a medley for you. From 1937, Elsie Carlisle. We'll put you to the test again. See if you can guess these songs. I don't think they're going to be too tricky, realistically, because I think if you listen carefully enough, you'll hear most of the words of the titles in the song. So here we go. 3 songs by Elsie with the orchestra. 1937. Pencil and paper at the ready, or just note them down in your mind, if you will. Here we go.
The girl with the gong, and I watch your car speed along. If you do more than 30, then Gertie gets shirty and tinkles a song on the gong. Oh, beware when you're driving along, for the law says that you're in the wrong. If I dress as a cop and I call you to stop, oh, I'm Gertie the girl with the gong. This night has been ruined for me.
Home games and don't spare the horses.
Oh, I'm ruined as ruined can be. It was in the gay 90s, one night at a swell affair. She was dressed in her best Sunday bustle and wore a rat in her hair. Her lover was not tall or handsome, but he was a terrible flirt. He spent the entire evening making up to every skirt. Angrily she reproached him, he heeded not at all. So she in her best Sunday bustle went flouncing out of the hall. She swept down the steps so majestic to her footman standing below. And in accents loud and clear she told him where to go. Oh, home James, don't spare the horses. Drive right through the main part of town. Oh, home James, don't spare the horses. He'll stand up 'cause he can't sit down. No, no, 1,000 times no, you cannot buy my caress. No, no, 1,000 times no, I'd rather die than say yes. I am a child of the valley, an innocent maiden, you see. He was a desperate Desmond who owned all the town property. He would pursue me through hills and through dells, but I was just wise to his game. Each time he would threaten, you'll wed me or else. These were the words I'd exclaim. No, no, 1,000 times no, you cannot buy my caress. No, no, 1,000 times no, I'd rather die than say yes. All together, boys. No, no, 1,000 times no, you cannot buy my caress. No, no, 1,000 times no, I'd rather die than say yes.
So, how many of those ones did you guess then? That little medley from Elsie Carlisle. I thought it was fairly straightforward because I think she sang most of the words of them, didn't she? Gertie the Girl with the Gong was the opening number, followed by, of course, Home James and Don't Spare the Horses. I often wonder where that, I remember that being a phrase which some of my I don't know, I think my mum and dad might have used it, and certainly other relatives would some say, "Home, James, don't spare the horses." I think that's where it came from, that song. And then, of course, No, No, 1,000 times no. Elsie Carlisle herself, well known as Britain's radio sweetheart of the day. One of the first girl vocalists to ever actually be broadcast in or on radio, a sort of almost like a forerunner of Gracie in many ways. A Lancashire lass, massive following in the 1930s, but stayed popular for generations after that, and a whole generation grew up knowing nothing about a lady who was one of Britain's top singers for almost 20 years. It's because of the fickleness of fame, isn't it? You stay popular for a while, you're very popular for a while, you stay popular for a little while, and then you vanish. Quite often the case. So yes, not that long after her star was at its peak, no one remembered her. And after the war, she deliberately walked out of the spotlight, just had enough, presumably, and into the shadows, as it's noted, of obscurity. But a class act, and in her time, like I say, was very much up at the top of the pops, as it were. A great picture of her here in the Book of Words, British dance bands, singers and smaller bands of Radio Pictorial, the magazine for every listener. And there's Elsie Carlisle looking very dapper in a sort of, I don't know if it's a gingham dress, but looking very smart in any case, head resting lightly, looking to one side. On the front cover, which cost 3D every Friday, Radio Pictorial, 3 pence, 3 old pennies. That was. Other notable articles in that magazine at the time. I'm just looking to see if it's got an exact date on it. Yes, it does. Here we go. This is the programmes for March the 19th to March the 25th. And 1939 it was. Oh dear. Yes. Radio in the Next War, Professor Lowe's Remarkable Prophecies, was one article going there. Bertha Wilmot, radio's old-time songstress. Are films fair to radio stars? Is another great question. And Private Letter to My Sons by Mrs. Jack Jackson. And other features inside include Dorothy Carlos, Clarence Wright, Mary Lawson, Billy Merrin, Murray and Mooney. Some names you might remember, and some you might not. We've got to squeeze in a gold standard before the end of the show, I think, shouldn't we? But before that, what about this? think that qualifies for sweet, doesn't it? A pretty girl. A pretty girl, if I can say it. A pretty girl is like a melody. Roy Fox with Denny Dennis taking the vocals back in 1936. From Roy Fox to Billie Holiday, who's going to give us this evening's gold standard classics from the Great American Songbook. And I thought here's one. Seems vaguely appropriate for New Year, coming up to New Year, New Year's Eve, when it gets to the bewitching hour, doesn't it? At midnight, and there's the party poppers and lots of song and maybe Auld Lang Syne if you're traditional, and champagne perhaps, and of course there's then lots of kisses and hugs and embraces. Embraceable You. Snappy ending to a nice languorous version of Sweet Embraceable You, with of course the inimitable Billie Holiday, our gold standard, one from the Great American Songbook, which we've been enjoying from a selection of those for the last month or two now, isn't it? Any thoughts you'd like, as I say, for 2023, then do get in touch. It's Howard Kane, which is dead easy, Howard Kane at manxradio.com. And that's Kane, C-A-I-N-E. Howard Kane at manxradio.com, lowercase, all one word, no spaces. Drop me a line and give me some thoughts. If there's things you'd like to hear for Sweet and Swing in 2023, an artist you'd like featured, a request perhaps, any thoughts, any memories from back in the day. Always great to hear. All of them are read, and chances are we'll read them out, give you a mention, and a request as well. Why not? Why not? I mean, a few people do. John, great New Year to you, John, over there in Peel. Father Sean over there in Ireland. A happy New Year and a healthy New Year to both of you. And also Sheila and Better Half dropped a line recently as well to say how much they've been enjoying it. Thank you ever so much for listening as always, and a very happy New Year and a healthy, of course, New Year to you as well, Sheila and partner. Better half, worse, no, better not. I'm going to get myself into trouble there, Sheila, aren't I? Anyway, you know what I mean. Happy New Year to you and to all listeners of Sweet and Swing. Just thanks very much indeed for listening throughout 2022, and I do hope you'll carry on listening, whether live or whether via the podcast now, as it is podcast. Go to the Manx Radio website, just find podcast, you'll find Sweet and Swing there, click onto it and you can play it whenever you want, or you can subscribe via your usual provider or via Manx Radio, and it'll be sent straight to you onto your favourite device if you're that way inclined. But if you like the easy version, just going there and clicking on, dead easy, even I can do it. That's not a bad way to do it, is it? So yeah, get in touch and let's see what we can do in 2023. A new year, but the music will be as sweet and swing and old and tasteful as ever. Have a lovely new year wherever you are, whether it's a quiet one in, listening to Sweet and Swing perhaps, whether you've got the whole gang round, a house full, whatever. Embrace a few loved ones, have a glass of something you fancy, and we look forward to 2023. I'll see you then. Look after yourselves. Cheerio.